Welcome to ISPC Safety Meeting Topics. Today we're going to talk a little bit about heat stress and just what is heat stress when the body is unable to actually cool itself by sweating. What we'll talk about today is heat rash, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and the almost fatal and mostly severe heat stroke. Heat-related injuries and illnesses are considered a hazard to power line construction and maintenance workers. These types of hazards are often ignored until a worker is injured and becomes ill from the heat-induced hazards. Consequently, the possibility of the heat-induced hazards should be discussed during the pre-job briefing. And many times what we do during that pre-job briefing is mention heat stress and then not think about it anymore when the job goes on. So we need to be more prepared, especially in today's climates, to make sure that the heat stress is something that's being taken care of. Some of our hot work environments, routine work by power line crews in the summer months, strenuous work anytime. It doesn't have to be 98 degrees outside for our heat stress to take over. Direct exposure from the summer sun for long periods, working in confined spaces in small areas like vaults and things like that, and then overexertion, digging pole holes, things like that, and then working in proximity to heated equipment. Some of the heat off of that equipment might take us. Some of the risk factors, not everyone is affected equally. We have age, weight, physical fitness. Some old guys and overweight guys like me might not be able to withstand the heat like some of the younger guys. Our metabolism, medications we may be taking, use of alcohol and drugs. Some of the guys might have drank a little beer the night before and are a bit dehydrated, but they don't feel the effects until they start getting to a risk stage. The air temperature, the humidity, the elevation, if we're working in high places, sometimes the air is a little thinner and it's harder to breathe and get the oxygen to our blood that we need. And then the rubber insulating PPE. We've put our line workers in rubber gloves and rubber sleeves, and we've not conditioned them to be able to withstand the extra that's on there. Our FR clothing, I'm wearing an 8-calorie FR shirt right now, and it's quite heavy. It doesn't breathe as good as a lot of other clothes, so that could also affect the amount of heat that I can take. How heat causes fatigue? Since heat-related injury and illnesses, symptoms often appear gradually. It's important to watch others for the onset of the symptoms, and the sooner that you can help a victim, the quicker the recovery will be. Heat rash. One of the symptoms that is unnoticed a lot of times, it's a result from the body's natural cooling mechanism. Body heat is released through sweating, and if the sweat ducts become obstructed, a rash can develop. So, like for instance, I may get some little red dots on my hand, where others, it would come off as a little bit of a rash. So if my skin is exposed to the sun a lot, I'll get not so much a rash, but red spots on my skin. And it's a result from being in the sun for too long. A rash can be dangerous, can become infected, so make sure we get the person to rest in a cool area, and then bathe the skin, get it cleaned off, and get some damp cloths on it. Try to get the skin damp as fast as possible. Fainting can be a reaction to the heat. As our blood is circulated to the extremities, it can accumulate in the lower part of the body, so fainting can occur if the brain doesn't get enough blood. Lie down in a cool area. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy. The person has already fainted and laying down, but the important thing is we need to get them to a cooler area and get them in the recovery position. Muscle cramps are an early sign of the body trying to cope with overexertion lack of hydration, and possibly a lack of salt or other minerals that the muscles need to properly function. This early sign is a warning to slow down, rest, cool off, and drink some Gatorade, Powerade, some other similar product. Just remember that any Powerade or mineral drink that you drink like that, it should be a 1-to-3 ratio with water. So every 16 ounces of a Gatorade or Powerade that you drink, you should be drinking 3 16-ounce bottles of water to go along with that. Drink 5 to 7 ounces of water every 15 to 20 minutes. Thirst is not a reliable indicator. Often we don't get thirsty, but we have to remind ourselves to always keep drinking. Avoid drinking beverages containing caffeine or alcohol. I mentioned the alcohol earlier, but one of the serious problems that we have now is our caffeine drinks, our energy drinks that are so popular nowadays. There has been several incidences and illnesses from young people who are drinking a lot of these and working in the heat. They think they're invincible and find out that they really can't get away from it. Heat exhaustion results when a person has lost large amounts of fluid by sweating. Some of the symptoms are fatigue. Some folks may get giddy, nauseous, and get a headache. Heat exhaustion, some of the symptoms are sweating really, really bad. The skin gets clammy, moist. The body temperature usually remains about the same, but the sweating is what is keeping that body temperature down. The victim may get sick at their stomach, vomit, lose consciousness in some extreme cases. Always try to move the victim to a cool place, give plenty of liquids, and get some cool cloths, a cool cloth on the elbows, knees, and around the back of the neck. Not cold, you do not want ice, but just make sure that you get some cool cloths, and it would help cool down the blood. Heat stroke is definitely a life-threatening condition and is always taken seriously. It occurs when the body temperature regulatory system fails. Sweating becomes inadequate to remove the excess heat. Skin becomes hot and dry. Body temperature is about 105 or more and is very, very serious. I had a heat stroke when I was working. I had rubber gloves and sleeves on and just didn't notice that I had quit sweating. It just happened that one of the guys working on the ground with me, I was in the bucket, and one of the guys on the ground was trained in CPR, and he was a CPR instructor. And when he recognized some of those symptoms, they got me out of the bucket and to a cool place and put the cool, damp cloths on my elbows. So I was already conscious again when the ambulance got there. Heat stroke is very, very serious. The victim becomes mentally confused or delirious, convulsions. They can become unconscious. So always get immediate medical attention, move the victim to a cool area. Soak clothing in water. You can put a little water on, and again, do not ice down a person because that will put them in an almost immediate stroke. Measuring and evaluating heat exposures. The heat index system is what they're talking about. So we may have a temperature of 90 degrees. It might not feel as hot if you're in a low humidity area, but you get into a high humidity area with a 90-degree temperature, you'll be looking at triple digits with a heat index. So the Health and Safety Agency testing, we should keep up with what those temperatures are going to be so that we can put that in our pre-job briefing. Measuring and evaluating heat exposures. Some work classifications, light hand work, heavy hand work. What we're talking about here is strenuous work, doing some heavy lifting, digging post holes by hand, things like that, having to shovel and tamp pole holes where it seems like an immediate work that we have to do. But let's just make sure that we sit back, take breaks, do some of the heavy work and then take a break, make sure everybody gets back hydrated, and try to keep the work moderated and under control. Some of the ways to control heat stress, engineering controls, maybe we can get some like a hydraulic tamp rather than a hand tamp. That's some of the engineering controls. that would help us with heat stress. Some of the work practice controls. When I was running crews, I always had a 40-minute work and a 20-minute break when it get really, really hot. PPE, like I mentioned before, we put rubber gloves and sleeves on these guys, and that can certainly increase the heat stress that we're under. Use relief workers, work in tandem. We always had an extra guy on the crew that could take over, and then pace the work so that we can keep up with everyone and see what's going on. Reduce physical demands, use cool recovery or rest areas. Schedule work for cooler times of the day. Many of our roofers will work 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then take a break during the middle of the day, come back 6 p.m., work till 8 p.m. So if you can, try to schedule some of the work for the cooler areas and take plenty of breaks during the really hot times. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact us at ISPC. We're always available and ready to make sure that your guys are ready to work safe.